New Jersey and the race for president, next on Carpe Diem.
Carpe Diem is funded in part by the Record and the Herald News.
The presidential campaign has already begun, as candidates are raising money and trying to build support in states with early primaries. Hi, I'm Bill Berlin, your host for Carpe Diem. Just what will the 2008 election mean to New Jersey? Joining me to talk about this and other issues are Dr. Michael Riccards, Executive Director of the Hall Institute for Public Policy, Riccards Lee, Communications Director, also with the Hall Institute, and David Schmiel, Editor of the New Jersey Monthly Magazine. Got to welcome you guys here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Each in your own way is dealing with issues at this point. Mike, you're concerned about the public letting you know at the Hall Institute what's on their minds.
Well, we think it's important at this stage, since the entire process has been moved up dramatically, that we give the candidates an idea of what the concerns are of the people of New Jersey, so we don't become overwhelmed by California and New York that are going to have their primary on the same day, and that we just don't end up also being, as New Jersey has so often been, a cash cow for the candidates. And so we're going to 3 different sites across the state asking people, what really is the great agenda for you? And do you think you want us to relay to the candidates as they begin this long process?
Rich, in terms of going to these sites, what's actually going to happen at these sites?
Well, we've been doing a number of things, and we're purposely doing different types of forums to get different types of input. We're doing a couple of panel discussions at colleges where a typical panel will include some political science professors, some journalists who've been covering politics, and usually political leaders from each party in that area. And Michael is going to moderate, those sessions. We're also, in partnership with Monmouth University, we'll be doing some polling. We're probably going to do a focus group. And Michael has also started something new for him, a blog site where people can, write back and forth with their comments on the presidential race. And as Michael said, from all this information that we gather, we're going to see what the priorities and issues are for New Jerseyans and draft an open letter to the candidates and to their campaigns.
This will be an open letter. It'll also be on your website.
Yes, it will be.
Which will be up on the monitor fairly soon, hallnj.org. Right?
That's correct. And actually, there's a special icon on our website, NJ 2008, which will take you right to our section on the presidential race.
David, you and your magazine are going to be dealing with issues too, maybe from a different perspective, but it's going to be important before the election.
Absolutely. I think, these guys are lucky enough to have a forum where they can do this on a daily basis. For our purposes, because of our lead time, we're always trying to sort of guess where we think we need to go and the issues that relate to people. So what we've done is we've sort of taken a look at what's going on in the state. And we created a monthly series called New Jersey and How It Got That Way. So we've dealt with everything from ethics to home rule to any number of issues, and trying to tackle it and make it so that people can understand exactly what's going on. And that's where I think it also plays into the national picture. How do we relate?
Mm-hmm. But some of the issues that you'll be looking at, all 3 of you, such as ethics, let's say, these are New Jersey issues. They're not going to apply very much to a presidential race. Is that fair to say?
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
I think all people are interested in ethics, especially with what's gone on politically, both on the state and national level. I think people want leaders, who are ethical.
Well, yeah, and I think, at a time like this where it seems there's so much, whether it's statewide or whether it's on a national level, where people are not comfortable with things that are going on. Whether it's the war, whether it's the economy, whether it is the political partisanship that's going on. Certainly, we're not immune to it, but it seems as though in the greater scheme, in the greater frame, I think we need to look at it on a national level and on a state level.
Mike, what are the consequences or implications of moving the primary up to February 5th?
Well, I think it has a couple of consequences. One is it certainly makes the New Jersey primary more important than it was before. I think secondly of all, it means nationally all of this movement earlier and earlier places a greater emphasis upon the importance of having an organization in place and having a great deal of money to spend in a relatively short period of time. I think the age of the dark horse candidates is pretty much over. I hear a lot of people saying, well, I'm not going to emerge until everybody knocks each other out in October. Well, those days are gone. It's a whole different ball game, and you really have to start early, run fast.
The shame of it, though, is that Michael's absolutely right, but it's also the issue where you can be a front runner and have a misstep and you're dead. That's the end of it. You know, Howard Dean clearly is the poster boy for that, and that's the real shame of it. You know, now you get some people in who are viable candidates who don't have the biggest war chest, and when this process starts sooner, they're going to be out sooner if they can't get any traction. And it's unfortunate because we don't have candidates who are going to be in it for the long haul per se, because there's not going to be anybody to be a watchdog for them.
Mm-hmm. There's also some risk for this in terms of fairness to the voters. We might be choosing nominees, let's say, 8 or 9 months before the general election. A lot can happen during that period. You know, we might be choosing the wrong person.
Absolutely, yeah. And unfortunately, the person will have been chosen, and then they're going to go into safety mode where they're not going to say anything. They're not going to have any new initiatives because they don't have to. It's been decided, so early that we're just going to get, more plastic candidates.
Mm. In late 1959, a man named Jack Kennedy from Massachusetts was running for the presidency, and somebody asked him just before the year turned to 1960, "Why do you want to be president of the United States?" And he said, "Because I want to lay before my generation the great unfinished business of our time." And I think really that's what it seems to me is critical, to lay before the American people the great unfinished business of our time. And we certainly know there's an awful lot of it.
In terms of New Jersey and New Jersey issues, what is the unfinished business? It's a pretty broad question, I realize.
Well, that's what we're trying to ascertain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going on the road not for us to be telling 8 million New Jerseyans what it is, but also to be listening to what they have to say. I think a foremost issue is the war in Iraq. New Jerseyans are not too different from the American people. They may even be more alienated from the war in Iraq than even the American people. I think the issue of medical coverage is critical because our demographics are very similar to national demographics. Immigration is an issue in New Jersey. Education and education costs are important. I think some sense of economic security and stability is certainly important. But how they fall out, how the people of New Jersey decide what are important, the issue of environment may be important. That, I think, is really why we're on the road. We want to say to people, tell us, you tell us. And because we don't want to talk about personalities. We did that. We've done that in the past. That hasn't really gotten us very far.
Isn't it possible when you go on the road and you have audiences and people show up for these things that you're going to get a pretty skewed response?
You may, and you may especially get it when the places you're going to be at are college campuses. We recognize that, but we think that with the poll and with people communicating directly to our website will give us a pretty broad sense, just as we did in the virtual debate that we had for the Senate,